Hi friends, Govind this side. Welcome back. This is chapter 4 where we are going to look very important Docker terminology. Before going forward, you should know about this terminology. Okay, so let's start. So first we need to understand about the Docker image. Okay, so let's first understand about the Docker image. Docker image. Docker image. Okay. So what is Docker image is? So Docker image is a file. Okay, the Docker image is a file, or we can say that it is a set of instructions. Okay, Docker image is a file or it is a set of instructions used to execute the code inside Docker container. Used to execute the code inside Docker container. Okay, so Docker image is a file or set of instructions used to execute the code inside Docker container. Okay, so if you want to execute the code inside Docker container, so required some set of instructions. So that set of instructions hold by Docker image. Okay, so Docker image contains your application plus all the required environment to execute that application. That everything is present inside your Docker image. So let's understand with diagram. So suppose this is your Spring Boot application. You created one Spring Boot application, and after that you create its Docker image. This is the Docker image of your Spring Boot application. Okay, so what Docker image contains? So Docker image contain your application. This is your Spring Boot application. So when you create the Docker image of your application, so inside the image, Docker image, your application is present. Plus, while creating this application, you have added some libraries. That all libraries is also present inside your Docker image. To run your application, some server is required. The server also present inside the Docker image. And while creating this application, if you use some other files, that other files also present inside your Docker image. So basically Docker image is one environment. Okay, so basically one environment to execute your application, whatever required environment, whatever environment is required, that environment is nothing but the Docker image. Okay, so we can we can say that Docker image is a set of instruction. This is a set of instruction to execute our code inside Docker container. This is our code to execute our code inside Docker container. The required environment or required the set of instructions. Okay, that is present inside the Docker image. Now if you move your this Docker image on any computer, so you no need to add the extra software, you no need to install any dependency, any libraries, or you no need to set any variable path. Just move this Docker image on any computer and just run. Your application is run perfectly. No need to set any environment over there. Okay, because everything is present inside your Docker image to run your application. Okay, to run your application, whatever required libraries, server, or whatever environment is required, everything is present inside your Docker image. Understand? So I hope you understand the what is the Docker image is and what Docker image contains. So Docker image contains the set of instructions, okay, plus your application, and while running the application inside Docker container, okay, so it read that instruction and run your application inside Docker container. Next, Docker container. What is Docker container? Okay, so Docker container is nothing but the running instance of your Docker image, So Docker container is nothing but the running instance of your Docker image. So basically Docker image is run inside Docker container. Okay, so Docker image run inside Docker container. So finally the running instance is Docker container. So we can say that the Docker is the running instance. Image is not running, container is running. So your image running inside container. So that's why Docker container is nothing but the running instance of your Docker image. You can create any number of container for same image. Okay, the key pointer or note, you can create any number of container for same image. Example, suppose I have a Docker image 1, okay, and I run this image in container 1. Now I want to run this Docker image in container 2, so I create container 2. I want to run this image in container 3, so I create container 3. So you can create any number of container for same image. Okay, next, Docker repository. Docker repository. So Docker repository is nothing but the storage. Docker repository is nothing but the storage where you can store, okay, where you can pull or push, where you can pull or push Docker images. Okay, suppose you create you create one Docker, you created some Docker image and you want to store in some on some server, so that is nothing but the Docker repository. Okay, you can push your Docker images on Docker server, and whenever you want you can pull also. Okay, so these are basically like your Facebook, you created the account on Facebook and you can upload your images on Facebook and you can download your images from Facebook. Okay, so something like that. If you want to store your Docker images on any storage, so you can push your Docker images on Docker repository. Whenever you want you can pull also, means you can download that images on your local system. Okay, so that is a Docker repository. So to pull or push Docker images on Docker repository, you need to create the account first. Okay, on Docker Hub. So let's create the account on Docker Hub. So open browser and type Docker Hub. Click on first link. Here is the option of register. Okay, so click on register and create your account, enter username, email, password and sign up. Okay, so I have already account on the Docker Hub, so let me log in first. Username or email ID and with password. So this is the home page of Docker Hub. This is the Docker repository. Okay, you can see here, this is the Docker images. I have created these Docker images and I push these Docker images into the Docker Hub. Here my images is stored. I can download or pull these images whenever I want from this repository. So this is nothing but the storage for Docker images. Okay, I hope you understand all these three terminology: Docker image, Docker container and Docker repository. If you have any doubt or any suggestion related to this video, you can ask me in comment. So in next video we'll play with the all Docker commands. Okay, so thanks for watching.